Hello, everyone. So, today I've got another very interesting question that came to us, and this was around how can these planets that are millions of years away from us can have an impact on our life, right? So, sometimes as astrologers, we say things like Jupiter, Saturn, and they are millions of miles away from us. So people who do not understand astrology, they ask this question like, you know, how can that planetary object has an impact on my life, right? And on a surface, it's a seems like a very valid question, something which is really, a logical mind would ask, right? So I'll try to answer this question. I think um, if you sort of do not understand astrology, there's no easy way to explain these things. But let me try and see if that helps. So there's a quote from Carl Sagan, right, which says that we are all part of the universe. We are made up of the same raw material as the stars, as planets, as comets are, right? So human being, when you look at it, looks very complex. Our lives are quite complex, and the forces that we are subjected to in our day to day life might feel very complex, right? But just like everything else in universe, we experience the same forces, right? So gravity affects all of us, force of attraction, that's all valid for us. So the laws of cosmos also applies to us. Now think for an example, right? If you have to measure the chemical composition of a swimming pool, you have two ways. Either you test everything, test all the water, or you take a sample of the swimming pool and test the composition of water, right? So, in a sense, if you know a drop, you know an ocean, right? And this is the same principle of astrology. Um, we as human beings are a part of cosmos. The cosmos solar system runs with great amount of predictability. So if I were to ask anyone um, from like 1,000 years from now, what time sun will rise, right? We can calculate that with fair amount of accuracy because we know the pattern of sun, we know the pattern of these objects, and they move with a remarkable amount of accuracy, right? Now, when you use that same logic within us, we also go through the same transitions in our own lives. So, as humans, throughout our journey, the moment we are born, our story starts. And if you can map that inner cosmos and the outer cosmos, then you can very uh, accurately predict what's going to happen in your inner cosmos. And this is exactly how the birth chart works. So, the moment you are born, or specifically the moment your doctor or a midwife cuts your umbilical cord, you become into existence as an individual entity, right? And when we record your date of birth and time of birth, we are actually recording your point of origin in that universe, right? So if you look at your birth chart is the exact snapshot of how the cosmos looked like the time you were born, right? And how the planets move, that's how your chart also respond. It's not, they're not directly affecting your life, but their movement is correlating to the moment of activity within your own life or system. And that's why uh, astrology or specifically Jyotish has been around for more than 5,000 years. And this is very interesting stuff that sometime I teach in my course. So when we study decoding the universe, um, I specifically look for the planetary or the astrological evidence throughout the cultures, right? So, for example, when we say Saturn, if you look from Greek culture to ancient Egypt to Chinese to Indian, they all saw Saturn in their astrology very similar characteristics. Someone who is uh, who can be related to sickness, grief, slow, old. So their representations are remarkably similar. And this is something which I find quite fascinating, that if there is a version of truth um, that was visible to human being across the geography, then there has to be some truth around it, right? So I hope I've answered your question. It's a tricky question. I mean, either you experience it, um, or either it's gonna make no sense in your life. So I hope I brought some clarity. If not, then we'll probably look at this question again through some other lens in future. Thank you.